And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Factory Fun is a game that really surprised me when I first saw it. My expectations were of a small box with a minimal amount of pieces, very light and, easily transportable. And what I ended up with, or what I ended up seeing, is a very heavy box with lots of pieces. It's much larger than I thought it would be, and this isn't a bad thing. This game is very well produced, includes a ton of pieces, more than I could ever imagine you needing, and all around is well produced. With that said, why don't we take a look at what's inside the box. Inside the box, we have a ton of different pieces. First though, let's start off with the rulebook. The rulebook for this game is very well written. It has tons of examples, it has a lot of pictures which help you illustrate what's going on in the game. It lists all of what's included, and it's just very well written overall. In addition, the game comes with several game boards. As I mentioned, this is a game for 2 to 5 players. And here we have an example of one of the game boards. These game boards are made of very thick cardboard, and on top of that, you can see they're double-sided. They have both a classic and an advanced or expert side of the board. The basic side of the board is a square-ish room with one pillar in the middle, and they include wooden pillar pieces to represent this. Now the pillars are also printed on the board, as you can see, so these wooden pillar pieces are not necessary for gameplay. However, they are a nice physical reminder to newer players of the game that you may not build anything where this pillar is placed. The object of the game is to build machines in your factory as effectively as possible, which are linked together in order to earn you points. The object of Factory Fun is to build machines in your factory to most effectively link them together in order to earn points. Machines are these long, rectangular shaped type tiles, and on each tile you're going to see a variety of inputs and outputs of colors and numbers. This machine, for example, which is called the Metzler, has an input of 3 orange, another input of 3 blue, and outputs the final product in the game, which is black. Another machine, for example, the Splitter 2, has an input of 3 pink, 1 orange, and an output of 3 blue. Now these two machines could be linked together in order to have the output of 3 blue from the Splitter 2 input into the blue on the Metzler. This is an effective play because you're hooking 2 machines together that have pieces or outputs and inputs that are harmonized. The game also includes these tiles which are either reservoirs containing an unlimited supply of original input colors for the machines, and reservoirs that will allow you to store your end products, either for any color or for black color at the end of the game. This is the end product of your machine and has no use in the game except for as to be the end color. The game also includes several different types of pipes for transporting colors from your machines. You have straight pipes, which have arrows in the direction of the flow. On the reverse of the straight pipe, you have a curved section, which allows you to curve things so as to more easily maneuver your materials from one machine to the next. In addition, you have split pipes, so as you can split your colors in multiple directions. There's a 4-way splitter and a 3-way splitter. And you have pipes that allow you to either cross over different colors or to split in 2 directions, 2 different pipes. A lot of these tiles are included. There's several dozen or maybe upwards of 30 to 40 different tiles of each of these types available for placement, so you're never going to run out of different types of tiles in order to build your machines. The final components included in the box are the money track and indicators or score markers for each player. Right here you can see the teal score marker. placed on the money track. The money track keeps track of how many points or how much money each player has in the game. And as you build machines, you will move up and or down on the track. The objective of the game is to end with the most money by most effectively building machines and hooking them together. To play the game, each player starts with a stack of 10 tiles. At the beginning of the round, each player will grab the top tile of their stack and simultaneously flip them over. The players will then decide which one of these tiles they might like to build on their board, being careful to choose the correct tile so as to not disrupt the rest of their factory. The first player to grab a tile must build that tile on their board and supply it or lose 5 points in the game. All subsequent players must also grab a tile and place it on the board. However, the last player to grab a tile does not have to place that tile on their board. The player may opt to not place the tile at no penalty. In this case, the second player to grab the tile, as there are only 2 players in the game, has the option as to whether or not to play the tile. They can pick it up and touch it, look at it, place it around their factory, and then make the decision not to play it. Usually, the instant a player touches the tile, that person has chosen that tile and must place it on their board or suffer the penalty. So let's say we flip these tiles and I've selected the Demuse Splitter 2. I now must build this tile somewhere in my factory. For example, I could place the Demuse Splitter 2 right here. Now, when I build the Demuse Splitter 2, it has no cost for building the machine. However, I do have to build supplementary materials in order to supply the machine with what it needs. Each player starts with 4 different vats of material, 1 of each color: orange, green, pink, and blue. Now, as I said, this machine requires an orange input, so I would place my orange vat right there below the machine where the orange input is. This supplies the machine with an unlimited amount of orange, and since it only needs 1, unlimited is more than 1, we're good to go. Additionally, it requires a pink input of 3. So I have my pink vat supplying the pink input of 3, as it's an unlimited supply. That's sufficient. Now that I have both of my inputs covered, I need to have my blue empty into something. It can't just pour out onto the factory floor. That's what these pieces right here are for. These are reservoirs. They're white colored, and they can hold any color, any one color of paint, or of color. It doesn't really matter, any one output. So I can hook this up to my machine, and now my 3 blue empties into an empty vat. This would cost 1 money per tile built. You start the game with 2 money, and this machine gives you 5 money. The way you calculate input is you look at what the machine produces, minus the cost for each tile that you've built, and that is your income for the turn. In this case, the machine produces 5 money, and I've built 3 tiles. 5 minus 3 is 2, so I earn 2 money for this machine. On the next turn, I would flip my next tile. And so this time I'm going to flip this tile over, and this is the Zemanizer, another tile that you saw earlier. It has an input of 3 blue, an input of 3 orange, and an output of black. Now, this is a little bit more difficult, and let's say I've selected this tile. I now must build this tile in my factory, or I can lose 5 points if I fail to build it. The nice part about this tile is that it has an input of 3 blue, and my previous machine has an output of 3 blue, so I can hook these 2 machines directly together. By removing this vat, which costs me nothing to remove, unbuilding things costs nothing, and building my new machine directly off of the old machine, you can see that I've got an output of 3 and an input of 3 blue, so I've satisfied that requirement. However, I must now input 3 orange into my machine, and my orange supply is on the opposite side of another machine. In order to build these together, I would have to build several pipes in order to connect them, and that's where these come into play. Now that I've connected my orange supply all the way around up to the orange input on my machine, I've got both the blue and the orange input satisfied. Now all I have to do is build a reservoir for the black material that comes out of the machine. As I mentioned earlier, black is a final product in the game and is never used as an input for the machines. So once you have this black tile here, and you build it here for 1 money again, that will never be used for anything else. So as we can see here, this machine makes 8 money when you've built it. However, I've spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 money building the machine and supplying it with its inputs. Now, 13 minus 8 is 5. I've lost 5 money on this turn. However, there is a benefit to building this machine, and that's a benefit inherent in directly connecting two machines which have an output and an input of the same color. When you connect two machines that have an output and an input of the same color, and that you've satisfied the requirement, thus 3 blue out, 3 blue in, you look at the input number and multiply that number by 5. So for example, in this case, the output and input are both 3, the input is satisfied, and the input number is 3. 3 times 5 is 15, and I'd place one of these little bonus markers on the board, noting that that is worth 15 points. Note, you only get these points if you directly connect your two machines. You do not get bonus points for connecting machines input from a vat, but you do get bonus points if you connect them through pipes. So for example, if this were one more space up, and this was connected via a pipe, these two machines are still considered directly connected, as the output from this blue is going directly into the output for this, or the input for this machine. Still worth 15 points. So here we have an example of what might be a factory at the end of the game. I'm going to illustrate the proper connections made on the board. All of this works, so this could be a real example of a final ending factory. What we see here is a machine, the magnetizer, with a value of 9, which is supplied by both the orange and blue vats. The magnetizer is directly connected to the vacuum rind, outputting 2 orange into the 2 input of the vacuum rind here. Now this direct connection, as it's 2 times 5, provides 10 points. The vacuum rinder also has an input of 1 green, which is outputting from the 2 green of the Hall boxer. As the input is 1 and is directly connected to another machine, 1 times 5 is a bonus 5 points. The vacuum rinder here outputs black, which is a dead product for the end of the game. The EH shredder here outputs 2 blue and is receiving an input of orange directly from the vat through this pipe. The 2 blue is feeding into the Hall boxer, which also has an input of 2 blue, as the 2 multiplied by 5 provides 10 bonus points. The orange vat also supplies the 2 input for the Hall boxer. Over here we have another machine called the Stamp Nuke, which is receiving a blue input through a long pipe into the machine and a green input from the vat. It is outputting 3 pink directly into a final collection reservoir. Factory Fun really lives up to its name in that it's a lot of fun to play. The game is well produced and comes with a large amount of pieces, and it's a simple game to pick up and play. As I said, it plays 2 to 5 players. It's really a lot of fun. If you like tile placement games and you like the challenge of trying to most optimally fit things onto your board while maintaining a low cost, this is really a game that you might enjoy. There is some random element to it in that you're flipping over tiles and grabbing them and trying to connect them, and the tile you need to earn the most points may never come up, but minimizing that randomness is really where this game shines and where you're going to earn the most points. That said, if you're really into tile placement games, or if you're really into trying to optimize your gameplay, I think Factory Fun is a game that a lot of people who enjoy those types of things would like and should probably pick up.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, This is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.